Georgia was the best team in college football last year, and I didn't even think it was that close. I know exactly what you're sitting there saying. Well, Matt, duh, obviously they won the championship, so of course they're the best. Well, here's my counter argument to that. Just because a said team wins the championship, it doesn't always mean that was the best team. For example, Alabama beat Georgia last year in the SEC championship, and I thought Georgia was the far better team. Alabama was good, don't take anything away from them guys, but they really overachieved to even get to the championship. And even if Alabama would have beat Georgia for the second straight time in the national championship, I still felt like Georgia had the better team. Not just in college football, but every sport, the better team doesn't always win, and that's why we watch the games. If the better team won every single game and they were supposed to win, there'd be no reason to watch. Everybody loves a good upset, unless it's against your team. You would think Georgia and Kirby Smart, since they just won their first national championship in forever, they'd be satisfied, but they're not. Kirby Smart isn't content whatsoever, and he's still got his foot on the gas. He wants more, those Georgia players want more, and those Georgia fans want more. They got a little bit of that taste of what Alabama fans have been tasting the past 10 or 12 years, and they like it. Let me make this very, and I mean very clear. Georgia's not like Auburn. I'm just using Auburn as an example, but there's many teams like this. As long as Auburn can win one championship or compete for a championship every 20 to 30 years, they'll be okay. On the other hand, for Georgia, that's not acceptable. They don't just want to win a championship every 5 to 10 years, they want to compete and be great every single year. And if you don't believe me, there's a reason they fired Mark Richt, who had a good coaching record, and he was always winning 10 and 11 games. The only downside of Mark Richt is he could never win the big one and get over the hump. Unfortunately enough, at a program like Georgia, it's not good enough to go 10-2 every single season. I want to say this again, they're not like Auburn, and they're not even like Tennessee. They don't want to compete, they want to win now. And right now, as to when I'm speaking and filming this video, Georgia and Kirby Smart are swinging for the fences. They're not letting up whatsoever, and you'll understand what I'm talking about later on in this video. We also got to talk about 1 to 2 other topics in today's video. You know what? I'm feeling good. I hope you guys are too. If we can get this video to 250 likes in 1 hour, we'll double upload. I got another very, and I mean very interesting topic to get into tonight. Hope you guys are excited to get into this video as I am. As always, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, do all that nice stuff. And now, without further ado, let's get into it. First things first, I want to bring this up. Somebody either sent this to me or tagged it to me on Instagram. I appreciate it, but it said pick a top 5 for the current head coaches. As you can see in our list here, we got Saban, Sweeney, Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, Lincoln Riley. You got Jimbo, Jim Harbaugh, and Luke Fickell. I'm curious, so let me know your thoughts on this down below, but for me, here's how my top 5 would look. At number 5, I'd have to go with Ryan Day. I understand he hasn't won a championship yet, but he's been solid for them, and you just gotta respect it. At number 4, I'm gonna put Lincoln Riley, and that may be an unpopular take, but I'll explain it. A lot of people hate Lincoln Riley for what he did at Oklahoma and what he's currently doing. And overall, before that, a lot of people weren't a fan of his because they felt like he choked in the playoffs time after time. He had all these Heisman Trophy winners and great quarterbacks, yet he couldn't win a championship. His biggest critique is that he's an offensive genius, but on the defensive side of the ball and other aspects of his coaching abilities, is non-existent. With all the bad things people have said about Riley, maybe even including you watching this, you can't take away the fact that he's an offensive genius. Especially when it comes down to quarterback play, he knows what he's doing. He's also a heck of a recruiter on the offensive side of the ball. There is the argument of, oh, well Matt, his quarterbacks have carried him. If you don't want to say his quarterbacks have carried him, I'll offer you this, and here's my counter argument. He had to recruit them. One of the biggest aspects of being a college football coach is recruiting, and he's good at that, at least when it comes to quarterbacks. I don't want to label him as underrated, but I think he's more underrated than he is overrated. A lot of people feel like he's overhyped. In reality, I don't. If you were to tell me tomorrow that Lincoln Riley was going to be my team's head coach, I'd be thrilled. For Ryan Day, I can't necessarily say that, and even for some other head coaches out there. Moving on to my top 3, and this is really close. At number 3, I got Kirby Smart, and at number 2, I got Dabo Sweeney. You could flip-flop these easily. As of today, if I had to choose one, I would pick Kirby Smart to be my head coach. But I can't discredit what Dabo Sweeney's done just because Kirby Smart's been great these past couple of years. Sweeney's got 2 championships, Kirby's only got 1, and I think that's what gives Sweeney the edge. Once again, if it was today, I would take Smart, but I gotta look at what they've done in the past too. With Dabo being at 2, it's really shaky for me because if he doesn't change something at Clemson, I don't see him even competing for a championship anytime soon. But overall, he's been a great coach, and you can't take it away from him. And at number 1, I'm not even going to talk about it. It's Nick Saban. There's no debate. I don't have to sit up here and tell you why he's number 1. If you disagree with it, you're an idiot. I did find that to be a little interesting. The 3 guys I've left off the list, Jim Harbaugh, Luke Fickell, and Jimbo Fisher. I'll explain that briefly. Jim Harbaugh's a fraud. I've always thought he was a fraud. And last year for Michigan, that season they had, it was a fraud. Michigan's not back. They had one good win against Ohio State, and that was it. Overall for that, let's not forget that only 2 years ago, Michigan went 2-4 in that COVID year. Not even gonna address the Luke Fickell one. I don't even know why he's on the list. And last but not least, Jimbo Fisher. Is he a great coach? No, he's a good coach. Texas A&M has went 8-4, 9-3 every single season he's been there outside of one 11-1 season. Nobody does less with more than Jimbo Fisher, and you're going to see that this up-and-coming season. You want to talk about overrated and overpaid, that's Jimbo at A&M. They've been paying this guy a ton of money, and he hasn't been doing anything with it. I already know somebody's going to say, well, Matt, he won a championship at Florida State in 2013. Was it 2013 or 2014? I can't remember. I think it was, yeah, it was 2013. Here's my argument to that, you bozos. That was 2013, nearly 10 years ago. He has done nothing since, and honestly, he's been irrelevant since then. If you put him in the top 5, I'm not going to say I think you're crazy, but for me, he's not in the top 5. Getting a move on with our video, let's get on to the main encore, and that is no other than Kirby Smart in Georgia. So we all know, and Georgia fans, they know this, they just hate admitting it, they have a serious quarterback problem. In all honesty, they've had this quarterback problem ever since the beginning of last year. The way that Kirby handled the JT Daniels situation with Stetson Bennett, it was awful. You had a guy who was hurt, he sat on a couple of games, and he got healthy, but you decided to roll with a walk-on who's not really that good. Let's just call it how it is. And Georgia fans, I get it. You don't want to bash one of your own players, and I don't think it's bashing, it's just the cold hard truth. Stetson Bennett, he's a great kid, he's going to have a great career ahead of him in broadcasting or an insurance salesman, whatever he chooses to do. He's just not a great quarterback. Matter of fact, I'll go even farther. He's not even a good quarterback. He's average at best. I already know some idiot right now is about to go to the comment section. Well, Matt, how could you say that? That's not true. He beat Alabama and won the championship. He made a couple of good throws in that game. Oh, wow, you're right. It's almost like Stetson Bennett did his job. That'd be the equivalent to me applauding you for taking out the trash. You're just doing what you're supposed to do. I don't like to discredit anybody. I always give my respect and credit where it's due. Yeah, he did make a couple of good throws and a couple of good plays here and there. And some of those plays happen to be big ones in the ballgame. Kudos to him, because a lot of people, they were saying bad stuff about him. And when I say a lot of people, I'm referring to Georgia fans. I'm not really singling out Georgia fans, but every college football fan base, they're so hypocritical. I saw it a few years ago with Felipe Franks at Florida. His own fan base was booing him in the middle of a game. Then he came back and got a game-winning touchdown. They started cheering him on, and he started booing them back and holding up his finger against his mouth, telling them to shut up. Look at what happened with Oklahoma last year. They were booing Spencer Rattler, and he wasn't even playing that bad. I mean, he wasn't good, but he wasn't playing terrible. All of these big-time fan bases, they're self-absorbed and they're entitled, and they feel like their quarterback has to play perfect all the time, or they want to see the backup play. May I remind you that Georgia fans were crying all season long, especially after that championship game, saying they want JT Daniels to play and start. I'm not going to let you forget that. It kind of went under the rug because they won that championship. All everybody was doing was saying, oh, why isn't JT playing? Kirby Smart, he's dumb, he's this, he's that, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to tell you what, Kirby Smart is very lucky they won that championship game against Alabama, because if they didn't, he'd be held to the fire right now and probably for the years to come. It makes no sense whatsoever. Kirby Smart pretty much decided to play a DoorDash driver, Stetson Bennett, over a 5-star recruit, JT Daniels. It wasn't just that he was a 5-star recruit. When JT played at Georgia, he was awesome. The main difference with JT and Bennett is this right here. JT could go out there and beat Alabama. He could win you games, whereas Bennett, you just hope he didn't lose them. Let me ask you a question. Do you really think any offensive coordinator or head coach out there, when they were watching film, they feared Stetson Bennett? I don't think so. If anything, the quarterback these teams didn't want to play, it was JT Daniels. This isn't the first time Kirby Smart messed up a quarterback situation. He did the same thing with Jake Fromm and Justin Fields. He decided to go with the safe guy, to go with the guy who's not going to make a mistake, and in reality, that's not what you're supposed to do. Last time I checked, you're supposed to play the best player at that position, and Jake Fromm and Stetson Bennett, all respect due, they weren't the best player. But check this out. Kirby Smart and Georgia might do one of the most historic things you'll ever see. What they're trying to do and what they're trying to pull off, they're attempting to do the impossible, and I'm all here for it. Whoa, hold on. You're probably sitting there saying, yo Matt, what in the heck are you talking about? Well, my friend, I'm glad you asked that question, because I'm referring to no other than Arch Manning. A couple months ago, Arch Manning made it very clear he narrowed his options down to Texas, Alabama, and Georgia. Alabama just got so impatient with him, they decided to go after a different quarterback recruit who's a 4-star, Eli Holston, and they basically took themselves out of the race. Now that Alabama's out of the race, it's down to 2 schools, Texas or Georgia. A couple months ago, Arch Manning took his visit, and here's what he had to say. Athens is probably the best college football town I've ever been to. I love Coach Kirby Smart. He's a real normal guy, great coach. The takeaway from practice there is that they have athletes all over the field, especially on the defensive line. They have some studs, and it shows. They had 15 players drafted. Everybody's immediate reaction, including me, is, oh yeah, he's gonna go to Texas. The reason I think he's going to go to Texas, it's fairly simple. If he goes there and he wins a championship or does something outstanding, they're going to worship him for years to come, and he's really going to cement his legacy. Whereas if he goes to Bama or Georgia and wins a championship, yeah, it'd be great, but he's not really going to be a legend, and they're not going to remember him like they will at Texas. Texas hasn't been good for a long time now, so they need somebody like that, and they would treat him like he's a superhero. At Alabama and Georgia, like he said, they have studs everywhere, so he's kind of a normal dude. Think about this, though. Imagine going from Stetson Bennett, who's a DoorDash driver, to Arch freaking Manning. Let me give you an even better perspective. Imagine if Arch Manning was playing on that team last year. They would have been unstoppable. They would have been the greatest team of all time. That Georgia team last year was by far the best team in the country, and they didn't even have a good quarterback. If they had Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or Caleb Williams, I don't even know how good they could have been. You're talking about a team who could have dropped 60 points a game, but also hold other teams to only 7 points a game. It'd have been historic. And what's so, I guess I'd say, impressive about this situation is Kirby Smart and his staff, like I said, they're swinging for the fences. They're going all out. And here's what I mean by that, and I want you to pay close attention. In every recruiting class, you normally only go after one quarterback. You try to zone in on one guy because you only want to recruit one guy for every single class. And if you do get 2, it's not a big deal, but it's not normal. But here's the problem with that. Let's say, for example, Alabama, they want Arch Manning and they go all in on him. They recruit him every single day, they send him letters every single day, and he's the only guy they focus on. Signing day rolls around, and Arch Manning, he decides to commit to Texas. That means Alabama, they're not even going to get a quarterback in that class because they wasted their time on Arch. So for all those people wondering why Alabama decided to go with Eli Holston, the reason for that is because they knew they could get Eli, whereas they didn't know if they could get Arch or not. Alabama didn't want to take a risk and go after one guy. They just wanted to go after a guy who maybe wasn't as talented, but he could be good in the future. With Kirby Smart and his staff, they're throwing all their eggs in one basket. They're going after Arch. They've made it clear they're not backing out of this race and taking their foot off the gas. They actually believe they can get him. And I don't think it's crazy either, because I think they have as good of, if not a better shot than Texas. Texas can offer the most amount of money, but here's the dilemma with that. Arch Manning doesn't even care about the money. He comes from money, he comes from a great family, and he knows when he gets to the NFL, he'll have money waiting for him. So when it's all said and done for him, his decision is going to come down to the team and the coach. And last time I checked, Texas went 5-7 last year. They got a brand new head coach, and that program in general is a complete mess. On the flip side for Georgia, they're coming off a national championship. They have one of the best coaches in the game, and that program is not a mess. They're in great shape. I believe there's more pressure going to Texas than Georgia, because if you go to Georgia, you just got to be better than Stetson Bennett, and that's not too hard. The fact that Georgia and their entire staff is going all in on Arch Manning, it's interesting. I'm not too sure. I haven't looked at it. I don't even know if they have another quarterback in that recruiting class they're going after. Maybe they are, I don't know, I'm not too informed on that, so if you do know anything about it, let me know in the comment section. But here's what I'm saying. If they're not going after another quarterback and it's solely Arch, what if he doesn't sign with them? That's where I'm getting to in this video. Yeah, you want to go after these 5-star recruits, but it's kind of like high risk, high reward. It's risky because if you don't get them, then all these other 4-star recruits and 3-star recruits, they're going to be taken up. I'm picturing it in my head right now. Arch Manning looks good in a Georgia uniform. I'm going to end off the video at this. If he decided to go to Georgia, I wouldn't be too shocked. I'm very curious. Let me know your thoughts on everything down below, but what up is up, peace.